Welcome to the Masterful Man podcast. This is the show for men who want to explore and embody the principles, practices, and personal power that allow them to thrive amidst today's chaotic world and lead a meaningful life.
Hello, and welcome back to the Masterful Man podcast. I'm here with these two overly handsome gentlemen, Nathaniel and Fabi. I am Adam. The world is crazy right now. If you've been paying attention to the news, which you've probably been forced to do so, there's some things happening this year and that have happened over the past couple weeks that have thrown not only the internet, but some people's lives into a big crazy mess. And so we wanted to talk about today how to stay centered through all of this chaos and give you some maybe some routines or some different thoughts, or I don't know, maybe switch a belief system within yourself to handle what could potentially be coming down the line, regardless of what political side you're on, regardless of if you think politics are bullshit or you're firmly planted in one side of things or the other. Because this really isn't about politics. It's about controlling the things that you can control in your own lives so that you're ready for whatever happens down the line.
And to be clear,
go for it.
one of those things that happened was Trump nearly got his head blown off 2 to 3 days ago.
Yes. So
just to be clear.
Yeah, not to I was trying to like potentially go around that whole thing, but yes, we are talking about that, and I couldn't be more honored to be in such a close-knit community with these two other guys who have been through certain things, been at war, been part of a movie that basically took over all of the world, being Plandemic, which, if many of you don't know, Nathaniel helped do the research and edit and was a really big part of that. And all of the things that came with that, while also still staying centered, still coaching other people, still being a mentor and leader through a lot of the things. And then obviously Fabi with his literally drove warships around. And so that's I feel like two people here who are uniquely available to provide guidance for when shit hits the fan and you need to be able to keep centered in yourself so that you can keep things moving forward. So thanks, fellas, again, for being here. It's been a while since we've recorded one, so but it feels good.
Yes, it has. It does
and
feel good.
You feel like you've been practicing the whole time. You're so smooth and
that was smooth.
Lovely. Yeah, I feel so set up.
It's something that I've been thinking about a lot because obviously I saw what happened, right? Everybody, like, I got a bunch of texts on my phone. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, like Trump almost got shot and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what the fuck? So as soon as I went online just to see what everybody was saying, and all of it was unhinged. Everybody was like completely out in la la land in terms of like, nobody knew what was actually happening yet. People were saying that it was this person's deep state this and this person's deep, and whether or not that's true or not, it's like nobody knew at the time what was actually happening. And so nobody was centered in their opinions or their views. Nobody took a breath. And everyone just reacted with everything that was in themselves, all of the vitriol, all of the like calling people names, like everything just spewed out of people instead of anyone taking a breath and thinking, holy shit, someone just almost died in front of all of our eyes. Somebody did. I believe somebody ended up dying. I don't know if the other people just got wounded or injured or whatever. I haven't seen any updates on those two people, but like it was just crazy. Like nobody was regulated at all in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the job for us as the quote unquote masterful men is, how can we bring some sort of regulation to this and have discussions like Nathaniel and I had, being on kind of opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of the vaccines and all that stuff through COVID and everything like that, and still be like friendly and good and like ready to help whoever needs help in that moment, regardless of who they are, what they believe in. And so to me, it was just like a, yeah, it was like a punch in the face of all of these people that were just like blah, 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 blah. And obviously everybody was like trying to clickbait the other person, and nobody had like a regulated view on it. Um, and so yeah, it's been on my mind for a couple days since that happened. And we're recording this on Tuesday. I think it happened what, Sunday or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, Sunday. So just a couple days after it.
It's
So yeah.
powerful to look at that, to look at the way everyone's showing up collectively online gives you a pretty decent assumption of how the average individual is handling it internally. You know what I mean? Like everyone's unhinged. And it's powerful to realize any person listening to this podcast or any potential masterful man who wants to come be a part of the jam, you know, we're the generation, right? We've only had internet like this for like 20 years. And we're figuring out now how that works and how to sit with that, right? It used to be just 20 years ago, if you were driving somewhere, you were alone. No one could ping you. You can't get a phone call. You can't, right? It's like you're actually by yourself. And we don't have that anymore. Everyone's connected to everything. We're not supposed to know the news of everywhere in the world and barely even know the news of our actual community at the exact same time and fill up all this capacity we should have to like show up for our life and get concerned about all these things that we don't have a lot to say, you know, not that we don't have a lot we can do about, except once we're all collectively focused on it, we end up doing a lot about it. We influence it, you know, tremendously. So I love the way that you kind of receive the experience and then are turning it into this conversation where my whole journey, I feel like it's kind of my like part of my life purpose to keep an eye out on all the things and have my hands in all these pots and pay attention to all this stuff. And I've learned my own version of how centered or uncentered I can get in that. And, you know, a really important word for this is discernment, right? Having discernment, even in the simplest sense of like, is this of value to me to put my attention here? Does it benefit me or what is important for me to be benefit? Now, you know, being politically aware or whatever might feel really important to people, and that's great. So then having the discernment of like where you get that from and how helpful is it? I think I don't think you could talk to any sane person now who wouldn't say, yeah, the news hypes things up a lot. You know, they might say, yeah, I prefer this network and they're always right. And these guys always lie. And everyone can say that and they're all wrong. They all lie. But I think everyone's on the page now. We're like, yeah, dude, clearly sensationalism, you know, if it bleeds, it leads, all these different things. It's like we get it now. So we also, I think people need to start accepting the permission slip we've been granted. COVID was this crazy opportunity, which everyone's still recovering from. The reason there's all this pent up momentum around any little thing that's going to happen is because we're not addressing the things that already happened that were so substantial. Right. And that's how trauma works. That's how behavior works. That's how we're helping the guys in the group. They're not able to show up centered this week and they come to the group and talk to us about it. And we always discover is because something happened last week that they didn't relate to properly. They didn't integrate it. They didn't connect with it. They didn't learn from it. In fact, a lot of the time, what all humans are doing, it's like we're just like keep shoving something under the rug because we're so overwhelmed by all the other stuff we shoved under the rug. It's like it just becomes the habit. So using these events are great opportunities because they're kind of showing you where your capacity's at. So if this just absolutely like destroys you, that something you weren't even a part of happened and you see it on the news and you now have to relate to it, that should be a wake-up call to be like, oh, wow, why is this so interesting and so stimulating to me? Must be because I'm not interested enough and stimulated enough by like the enrichment of my life and how that's going. You know, I think that's one of the biggest people when my life would get, you know, something's kind of lulling or something's not going the way I want, all of a sudden, all this stuff starts to seem more interesting. There's even, you know, because I'm just looking for that, you know, distraction and for that drama. There's a good correlation between truly successful people and their relationship to drama. It becomes less and less interesting, less and less what you need. So, and it just kind of like getting some of my piece out on that, and I'm happy to pass it along.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect, because that is exactly how I feel. This last piece you're talking about here, yes, totally segueing into what I've been going through my head. It's like people who don't have enough going on in their own lives, then something crazy happens, they react, and it looks like it's very serious what happened, but people get like gossipy about it, and speculate. And sure, like, how did they let a sniper on the roof only 400 feet away? Well, good question, actually. We do need an answer to that. But then people just, they get totally wrapped up in their dinner conversations or whatever their conversation online, as Adam pointed out. Everyone just online, like, oh, we have the new gossip to chew on, even though it should be treated more serious than that and more calmly than that. And I do agree with you, Nathaniel, the fact that it's a great point that if you are one of these people overreacting, it should be a wake-up call. It can be a wake-up call, like, okay, is this how I want to live my life, overreacting to these kind of things all the time? Because guess what? Crazy shit is happening all the time. We're in a serious, crazy time. Nuclear war is a little too feasible right now. We've been living with that potentiality for like 80 years, but it's a little too real right now. Way too real. So if you're getting if you're just going from crazy moment to crazy moment to crazy moment to crazy moment, and you're just using those moments as ways to kind of like gossip and just feel like you have meaning in your life, maybe you should find some other meaning in your life. Because when this happened, when my girlfriend Darcy, she said, "Oh my God, check this out." And I was like, and I was, for a moment, I was like, oh my fucking God, he nearly got his head blown off on live TV. But I didn't, if anything, I got numb. I'm not like proud to admit that. And I don't think I went completely numb. Maybe I went centered actually, but I just kind of went, well, what does this change? It really doesn't change anything for me. And if I admitted that to certain people, they'd be like, what do you mean? Is this? I'm like, no, because I accepted a long time ago, 20 years ago even. And Adam mentioned I was in the Navy, and I like to remind people that I did get out 19 years ago. And that the transition out is more kind of the more significant story in my life. But 20 years ago on this date, this week, this month, I was on a destroyer next to the Al-Basra oil terminal looking out for suicide boat attack 20 years ago today. And it was back then that I realized, like, all right, all this warfare, all this whatever, all this shit that's going on in humanity, I want humanity to get better. That's what I'm going to stand for the rest of my life. And staying centered, being completely present with my one-on-one coaching clients, being completely present with our men's group, taking on the personal issues in their life, helping every person I'm with is all I need to do. It is. It really is all I need to do. If I could snap, if God or whoever snapped their fingers right now and everyone on earth went, oh shit, you know what? We all need to get along and stop being violent. We would still need to do the work of healing people's nervous systems. We would still need to do the work of asking people what they want. Hey, all right, cool. What do you want out of life? Let's do it. What are the challenges to getting there? What are the childhood traumas to getting there? And that's in the most ideal of situations where God just snapped their fingers and war just ended and everyone could just commit their focus to personal development. There would still be an overwhelming amount of work to do in that regard. Yet that we bring to our men's group, we're doing it in the trenches, under fire, news channels lying to us. Everything is crazy, still trying to figure out how to have etiquette online. Is the climate about to blow up or not? Is Russia about to nuke somebody? Okay. Doesn't change what we're up to. I'm still going to look people in the eye and say, what do you want? Who do you have to become to get there? Because I know on that journey, that person's going to get a regulated nervous system and then be able to pay it forward to everyone else in their life. And that is what will get us to the beautiful utopia peace that I think we all want.
Yeah.
And it's that simple
Hell
for me.
yeah.
It's that simple. Trump nearly got his head blown off, and I went, fuck. Yeah, that is crazy. I'm not going to act like I wasn't like holy shitted by it. But did it change anything? Nope. Nothing changed in my life other than, well, here's another thing I will have to, I'll have conversations with people about for a while and we'll work through. And it's crazy to think that as extreme as this is, it's just going to be another news story. 1, 2, 3 weeks from now, we're just going to be on to the next thing.
Yeah. And I just want to say we are all white men. We have a certain amount of privilege that might
I'm
not
half Puerto
be
Rican,
afforded to
but
might
go
not be
ahead.
afforded to everybody. And maybe that's just my opinion, but I'm just going to say that because I feel like the need to say it. And I also want to
But what do you
say,
mean by that? What
I'm just
does
saying,
that have to do with this?
I'm
Though?
just saying there's a lot of people that think that if the election goes one way or the other,
Yeah.
that their lives are going to drastically change.
Oh,
And
sure.
so that
Yes,
and by us being white men,
that's fair.
it's
That is fair.
it's most likely to change the least for us. So I
I-
just want to
I'll buy
recognize
that.
that for anybody out there that's listening and being like, well, it changed everything for me. You also need to look at and see what that reaction and where that reaction came from and whether or not it was a reaction that, like Fabi was saying, could be brought back into center. And
I still have my preferences politically and all that, and I'm pro-choice, for sure. I don't like the state of Supreme Court. I hear you, Adam. I appreciate that.
But important also is to realize that Bobby's not saying that he just shut down with no emotion.
No.
He went through a process that he's gone through so many times that it's ingrained in his nervous system to have a reaction and be able to calm himself and bring himself back into center like that. And that's years and years and years of not only, I'm assuming, starting back in the Navy, but past and through the Navy and through into his real life so that he doesn't fly off the handle on any random thing that kind of happens in life.
Yeah. No,
So I want
thanks
to
for
make that
saying that.
distinction too, because
I appreciate that. I'll take it as a compliment even. Yes, absolutely.
Because even myself, like I saw it happen and then I was like, oh, I got to see like what everybody's saying. And I started scrolling. And then at a certain point, I was like, well, what is this for? And so what it seemed like for you is it was almost an instant reset back to center. For me, it took me a little bit longer because there was like a part of me that like wanted to know more of the information. And then I kind of had to like have that zoom out moment where I'm like, do I really care that much about this information, or does it really change anything for me? Or like if it was faked or not faked or like put on by whatever spies, or whether or not the Secret Service should have been there or not there, like does that really take away from what my mission is in my life? And I kind of
No.
had to have that zoom out moment and realize like it really didn't. Because what I want to do is like make sure that I'm like here for my family, for my friends, for my clients, for my bros, right? And so I just want to, yeah, it wasn't there. I could see how people could understand that being a numbing to the news versus a process that you went through almost instantaneously because you've been through that process so many times.
Well, I have an identity as you two, and we talk about that all the time in our men's groups to lean on. And it's almost in our 3 years of Masterful Man talking about identity seems to always bubble up as the most important thing. And we look at all sorts of aspects of personal development, all that, but certainly knowing who I am and what I'm up to. And for me, reintegrating the warrior identity in my life. I got out of the Navy. I was like, I'm fucking done with being a warrior. No, you're not. You're a man. You're not done being a warrior. Oh, fuck. Nope. I get to be a warrior on my own terms now. So when shit hits the fan, my identity, my paradigm for life already is a sense of urgency, is already like shit's already crazy. People are dying, people are suffering, the bullets are flying, we're in the trenches, I'm trying to be in the front line. It's already what I think. That doesn't mean I don't have fun and I'm not happy and joyful. And certainly balancing that paradox is, to me, very much part of my spiritual path. And I would imagine would be part of anyone's spiritual path, frankly, to balance these paradoxes of, well, if everything's fucked, can I still be happy? Yeah. And I see people on the left especially struggle with that because everything's fucked and they want to martyr themselves. I'm like, you still need to access the authentic joy in your life. So yes, Adam, I have worked on this for a long time. I would say since the day I left the Navy, it's been a almost 20-year journey to now where I'm like, all right, I know who I am. I know I want to engage people, whatever's happening. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, of course.
Nice to hear. To be honest, sitting here is very nice to hear that. I appreciate it.
Well, I think you like that. I think there was a little bit of, obviously when things are common for us, we downplay it a little bit, where I think that is like a sign of your emotional mastery that you have, where you can like, it's like the super fast robots in like Star Wars, like R2-D2, right? He's like, the X-Wing gets hit and he's like and he's like fixing it like on the move while they're still like in the fight. And I like kind of equated it to that. Like you were able to just like zoom back really fast. All your little tools came out and kind of fixed you up, and then went back in. You were still flying around on your mission.
Yeah. I mean, the thought that still does come to mind is, what if he had been killed, though? I have played with that hypothetical. Again, it doesn't change my mission and what I'm up to, but it changes the environment that I'm operating within. And that's not really the point of our podcast this episode to get into that hypothetical, but I still do think about that for sure. And I think a lot of people are having that conversation. It's maybe probably everyone's being like, well, what if that did happen?
Which is I think a healthy integrative response to have, because now it's like when you like almost get in a car accident, you like take that in and you're like, well, what if I would have? And then you're able to better like sit with what just happened and go, damn, if I would have, I'd be dead. In which case, what I was just doing was too close to that option. I came to a fork in the road, and then it was a 50-50. So I think that's super important.
Well, doesn't that come back to your point? Like
if
your reaction to what just happened is to be overly triggered and overly dramatic about it, shouldn't you be saying to yourself like, oh, that was too close to comfort. I need to get grounded and centered in my life that I stop getting pushed around by every little thing that's happening. And I get that this was a bigger one, but there's a lot of big things happening.
Yeah, every single day. What you barely get to see on the news is already too much. Like, every town has something tragic happen every single day.
Yes.
All across the world. Any town or village or city or region, whatever you want to call it. And it's incredible. It's part of the human experience. And then we basically get exploited. That gets exploited in us, just like how sex sells, or marketing in general. It's like, oh, cool dudes having beers on the beach. It's like, it's just pure trickery somewhere. So I think people need to get excited about the fact that the game is so easy to see now too. Even just regardless of conspiracies or that kind of stuff, just the game of like, all right, we know the phones are designed to make us addicted. We know the apps are designed to make us addicted. We know they just want to keep us on the content. They give us the infinite. The moment everyone realized infinite feeds happened, there was basically zero adaptation to that. We just said, oh, okay, well, I guess I could just go forever. And then it took a couple of years of that where now it's like normal to just disappear for like 4 hours. People will just do that now. And just 10 years ago, nobody did it. 0 people did it. It wasn't the technology didn't exist or whatever, whenever it was, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. I remember the day it happened on Instagram. And then I built a business on Instagram. So, you do what you can. But I've done that the whole time with a full-on practice of like how I actually use it and when I'm consuming stuff versus using it as a tool to create things. I think in the more practical sense, the people watching this and a lot of dudes watching this have their own version of doom scrolling, or the thirst trap stuff. It's like, if you like video games, I love Dungeons and Dragons now. So I have this whole other thing about my stats and having a high constitution score, which my rogue doesn't, but I have high dexterity, etc. And it's like this thing that we've all now unconsciously decided is us. Like it's an extension of you, your phone, your little smartphone. And when you lose it, you feel like you lost a body part. And when the battery's almost dead, you feel like you're about to die. It's like insane. We wake up and we use it just to start the day to feel like yourself. Huge problem. Join Masterful Man will help you fix that, by the way. Super important. We do dopamine detoxes in the program. It's a lot of fun. But it's like guys need to be willing to treat this as their reflection of reality, whether you think everything's a reflection of you or not, or it's all a hologram or that kind of stuff. But it's like, this is giving you your most direct feedback loop, and how well this thing can trigger you is up to you. And how well it can distract you is up to you. How often it's used is up to you. How you decide to use it is up to you. And I think every guy specifically, and women for sure too, have their own versions of this stuff. But figure out your own way that you're going to set up an experiment to just make the one channel, that portal to all the doom and to all the distraction, make it a little harder. Just make it a little harder to use it. Some people just turning changing the color settings, just delete some of the apps you don't want to use for a week, just to see where you're at. Because I guarantee 99% of you will delete some apps and then download them the next day and just jump back in. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not interested by that, right? If that happens and you just continue, that's what's wrong. If that happens, you go, whoa, I'm literally not in control of my own behavior. That's so interesting. I literally feel like I have to get stressed out by the news. I have to do this thing. It feels too normal. That should be a big wake-up call. And that's happened to me multiple times in my life, and continues to find it. I thought it was fine. And then TikTok existed, and TikTok's actually fucking awesome if you build a cool algorithm. And I've learned about projects and people and things that is incredible. And it's also horrific if you let it be lots of other things that it could be. So that's kind of where I'll take mine on the practical sense. It's take this, go get real with yourself, remove some of the distractions, change the notifications. You actually give yourself the first week of your life where you don't look at any news, instead of just thinking about that as a philosophy of oh yeah, that's so cool to look at it. Actually go try it and see how awkward it feels. Right. And then instead of when you do see something and consume it, give yourself the chance to actually talk to people about it. The conversations are more important, and you'll actually find how, Adam, you said you were sussing one thing out and then you're wait, is this actually even interesting to me or provide me any value? Usually it's we'll go to talk about it and then realize, oh, we're just shit talking Trump or shit talking Biden or something. We're not even having a conversation. We're just kind of riffing and being silly about this thing we can't even grok in the first place. Right. So that's a great way to find out, is there actually anything in this? Right. Because maybe instead we want to talk about something that should change about the system and have an interesting idea about it. And we should make a Substack about that. It's how can it turn into something that's valuable? But if all it does, it makes you more excited to go down more rabbit holes and distract yourself more and throw yourself off more, then you're just, not being productive with it. So as someone who's a big fan of tracking the drama, but it's more watch, I almost feel more this is just my own ego maniacal approach, where I like to think maybe I'm a Tony Stark, and remember he wants to build this shield around the world, and I'm well, at least I can follow things and see what's going on, and hopefully to the effect of helping protect people, even if it's just through empowering them to be more aware of how they can protect themselves, right? And so this podcast is a great example of that. And really think about it as, last thing I'll say is, think about it as like a session. If you do want to go look at stuff, or so the next thing happened with Trump, and you're about to go click the link or do the thing, treat that like you would treat some application you have to fill out for your dream job, and there's a timer on it, and you want to like be available and present, and it's like, great, I'm gonna go check this out, and then I'm gonna be done and get out of there. It's like an actual scenario to engage in, with the plan on like reflecting on it and integrating on it, and expecting it's going to try to trigger you, and assuming it's going to try to provoke you. So when you see it or you get provoked, you're like, oh, whoa, they just got me. Instead of just thinking it's all real, it's a lot more. It's like we're so environmentally designed, so you can't change the stuff that's coming in, but you can change how you choose to engage with it.
Yes.
Love it.
Thanks.
Bobby, for you, what's like some practical things of like people, like how can people get centered or stay centered, or like through all of this?
Well, when it came to nervous system stuff, that was very much just using tools. Breathing, EFT was a big one for me, tapping, actually going through the certification, going to like a 10-day retreat to be certified as a advanced practitioner. And as much as getting certified to do it, the certification process is just doing the work on yourself with a lot of high-level guidance. And I had some high-level guidance. So for nervous system stuff, I like those body techniques more than just psychotherapy and talking to a therapist. It's like, all right, well, I know that I'm getting triggered by this stuff. Again, as Nathaniel pointed out, like if this Trump assassination attempt happened and you're like all freaked out by it, like, hey, maybe that's an indicator you can work on your nervous system. So reeling in social media usage, making it a point, go on a silent retreat, go sit in the middle of the desert by yourself for a day or two. You guys, I don't know how much our audience knows this, but I lived for 19 months on the road in the back of my little pickup truck. And I would just walk off into the middle of wilderness areas without my phone. And yesterday I just started another 6-week adventure like that. So I'll be in the Grand Canyon a few days, and Joshua Tree another week or two after that. Anything to just get the fuck away from this, but then be curious. Go take a weekend seminar on breathing techniques. It might go. So do the techniques of calming your nervous system. And if you don't know what we're talking about, research just vagal nerve toning and just learn what we're even talking about and what we even mean by the nervous system. And if you don't know, DM one of us, contact Masterful Man, and we'll be like, this is what we mean by toning your nervous system.
Or go to thebeastcode.com.
There we go.
And opt in for a really in-depth, awesome training we have that basically teaches you a way to frame your lifestyle that gives you a fucking super resilient nervous system, and has like this 14-day accountability planner thing you can go through.
Absolutely.
So that's
great. Perfect. If you're a man, yes, join our men's group. Give it a shot. We will help talk you through what a path to tone nervous system could be, and again, path to an identity. I think I answered your question, Adam.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. I mean it. Try our men's group out. In a later podcast, maybe next episode, we're actually going to talk about how to select the men's group. But we have our 2-week, you sign up, you get the first 2 weeks free. And if it's not jiving with you, you quit. And if it is jiving with you, could be the best decision you ever made in your life.
Yeah.
For real.
What I heard you say too was like, pick your weapon of choice. Like if breathwork has always seemed interesting to you, go do it, go invest, go do a thing with it.
Yes,
right. If tapping has been interesting, if doing men's work has been interesting, there's a lot of different options out there, a lot of different
Yes.
technology. And even just committing an hour on YouTube and typing in how to regulate your nervous system
Yeah.
and go have some fun. Go find
Start
people you
follow-
resonate with. Yeah.
Start
Yeah.
following up on your curiosities. I mean, that might be my most basic advice for life anyway.
Yeah.
If you're like, what should I do with my life? Okay, what are you curious about?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. For me, and just to wrap this up really, really quick, for me, it's kind of twofold. One is going back to what Fabi said originally, is like, what are you doing with your life? Like, where do you want to go? What is the target? What is the goal? What is the vision? Like, sit down and write that out. And it's probably going to take you a couple of times. It might take you months. It might take you years. It might take you a decade to figure out what your vision is, but at least you're moving towards that. And then the last thing would be, if you have established routines and habits and success rituals, like, don't skimp out on those just because because things are crazy in the world, right?
Yeah,
double
tend
down.
Great
to-
point. Great
I mean,
point.
this happens all the time in like the business coaching realm. Is like, somebody will get some, well, really all coaching, but somebody will get some routines down that help with their capacity. They start feeling really, really good. They start making progress towards something. And then they decide, maybe our brain decides, that they don't need those things anymore because we're already good. We have the momentum. And then as soon as those things stop, that momentum starts to dwindle. So when stuff like this craziness happens in the world, that should be a sign for you to almost like double down, add 5 more minutes onto your meditation, add 5 more minutes onto your grounding or your breathwork session, like Fabi was saying, or whatever. It's not a time to like take more time to look at your phone and figure out like whether the Secret Service should have women in it or not. Right? Like, that's not what you should be taking your time on. Your time should be taken on like, how can I like bolster, knowing that there's all this craziness in the world, how can I bolster my nervous system to handle any of that creeping in during the day?
Mhm.
And so that way I'm even more centered than I would be if it was just a normal day. So those would be my 2 things. Make sure that you have a vision, you kind of know where you're going, and then keep up with your routines and maybe even bolster them with more things, or maybe a second round of them in the afternoon or something like that.
Mhm.
So the craziness doesn't continue to happen.
Bolster your bros.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
then, get support if you need it. And if a lot of this stuff feels super heavy for you right now and you're not sure where to turn, and you've tried to talk deeply about these things with some of your male friends, and maybe it fell on, what is it, flat ears? Not
Deaf
flat
ears.
ears.
Deaf ears, yeah.
Deaf ears,
No,
flat ears.
Flat ears.
It fell on deaf ears, and you didn't feel like you got what you needed from that. We have a men's group that we would love for you to be in, especially if you're willing to dive deep, willing to dig deep within yourself, willing to really put yourself on your front foot instead of being on your heels. It's a 2-week free trial, which pretty much anytime you sign up will ensure you get at least 2 of our weekly coaching calls. You will get access to some course material that talks about the nervous system, that talks about vision creation, that talks about being a circadian warrior, which is basically just our way of saying you need to master your 24-hour cycle. And you will get put into a community of other men that are also moving in that direction. And above all, men right now need community to move those things forward, to move our lives forward, to bounce ideas off of, to be in the trenches with you on some of this stuff. And it would be our honor for you to do that with us. So if you would like to join us, masterfulman.com. Nathaniel mentioned a little bit earlier, if you want to kind of get a little tiny preview, Nathaniel's got the hoodie, the
Thank-
Merch.
Merch.
tank on right now. But if you'd want a little bit, the 2-week free trial is a little bit too scary for you, and you want to kind of dive into this stuff, we have thebeastcode.com, which is a 14-day, it's our freebie basically for 14 days of kind of getting into the habits and rituals and nervous system regulation stuff, like Nathaniel said before. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff and you just want to keep listening to the podcast and interacting with us on social media, and that feels what is the most in service for you, then by all means go and do that. But it would probably be very much worth it for you to join us in one of our calls and see what we're all about.
Well said.
I'm going to pull
guys.
you into the trenches before the world forces you into trenches. Now, the literal trenches of a
Yeah.
war, terrible. Intentionally getting into the trenches of your own life, the best thing you can do.
Terrible, but also good.
I was gonna say like kinky even. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Call it what you want. I'll
Yeah.
buy that.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Good to
All right, we'll
talk.
see you guys next
Good to see
time.
you.
Yeah. Stay masterful.
Indeed.